Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Emily, and today I am here to talk to you about my latest journal that I've put together. It's called Trust. I believe it is Hopeful Series 11. I've kind of lost count. I started in January to do a Hopeful Series in hopes that 2021 would be a better year than 2020. And I have been making various journals that have either inspirational words or Bible verses. And this particular one has Bible verses in it. In fact, it has about over 40 Bible verses that are separate, or you can pull them out, and it has over 20 that are attached to the book. So the book itself is a very floral. I used every floral. I just have really been into florals. This is a button on the end. It's a wide spine. It's your typical measurements. I've got, this one is 8 by 6, maybe 6.5, yeah, by 6. And then it does have a 3-inch spine. So it's a nice chunky book, but if you took the over 40 tags out that are Bible verses, and I also have some places where you can pull out areas, and I'll show that to you. But I used quite a few of your Victorian sort of books that have to do with old-fashioned country diary, some of the Victorian ladies, some of Edith Holden. So I did use quite a few of the florals out of these books. And in addition, I used this particular book called Decorating with Flowers. So, I just, this is just a beautiful book of different bouquets and so forth. And you can see where I have used, but these books I get for next to nothing, maybe $1, or maybe something this thick would cost me $3 at my thrift store. But just has such beautiful floral prints that you can't help but not have a book of Bible verses with florals in it. It's 4 signatures, and I used a lot of papers. I used greeting cards, I used the book pages, and I used glassine. I did go through and pull out a lot of my scrapbook papers that have a nice floral print on them, and used other pieces of fabric, for instance, to add to it. Doilies, I used lace and doilies. I've got probably over 25 different types of laces and trims. Some of the lace is very old. In fact, most of the lace, I got a lot. Originally, I got a lot of lace from the old home place, but I have since been going to my scrap store or thrift store, and this is something that it's very interesting that I found, was that I found a whole group of these applique, or however you want to call it. There was like a dozen of them. I've got a book page here, but you could see that, for instance. And so the actual background that the lady used, this is quite pretty, but some of it was more of a I don't know, a dull green, and I decided to just cut out the little patterns and use them in books. So, but this is machine embroidery, so I used some machine embroidery in it as well. So again, with 4 signatures, and then I used the same same fabric that's on the outside, the front and the back. And I've got a big ribbon on it, so we'll do that. But the floral fabric, I used it on the inside and outside as well. And this came from fabric scraps from various people, and some that I bought at the thrift store. But, and you can see here that the very first page is an Edith Colton page. And I actually, where I could, tried to put the name of the pages. And then I did a little bit of distressing, and have some tags hanging from string that I attached with some with paper clip. This is an interesting kind of a Asian look. But what they did was they took one of those sort of transparent leaves and maybe pressed or glued a floral print on it, and then they actually laminated it. And I found this for like 50 cents at the thrift store. And this is the inside here is one of those plastic that I actually glued that on, and it has this book belongs to. So that's that. And then I have maybe over 25, say, or 35 pages for journaling, and I do use thick paper. This is probably 65 pounds that has been coffee stained. And then moving through here, I just use a lot of trim and lace. I added a little bit of lace so that when you close the book, you have some lace on the sides and lace at the top. And more of the paper clips with little sayings on them that I added with some string. Again, you can pull these out. These are store-bought. I actually did pay full price for these, but it's got some Bible verses or some nice sentiments on them. And then this is actually some envelopes that I found, and I was looking through, all my magazines, and I found this particular magazine, Flow. And Flow well, you can see that I have really gone through here, but Flow has a lot of where they have perforated edges, and you can go in and cut them out, and they had a huge set of perforated edges in the back. Here is some with young children, and and so forth. So, like I say, you can prep. And so they had this with flowers, and I just took them and put them in this envelope here with some of the perforated flowers. So you'll see these perforated flowers, and I actually did put a straight stitch around it, and then you can actually either add a Bible verse or a note or picture or phone number or website. Whatever works for you. But I got a bunch of these, and they are the kind of envelopes that have a window, so you could actually take these out and then use these two envelopes to create a tag with a window in it. And then this is a pink rose paper. Well, I guess it's rose. And so I found some stationery or cards that you can use, for that. This is some collaging that I did with string and some cheesecloth, some old papers that I distressed, dictionary pages and such. And I explained about this. This is lace that I have added acrylic to the back, and that's when I talk about these, when I say, or not acrylic, acetate. That's these that you can buy, and of course I get them at my thrift store, and you can cut them up and use them as, you know, as kind of steady to hold, to give some protection to the books. This is a set of postcards or cards that I found in a bunch in a bin at the thrift store. And here's where I use some more of that acetate and more Bible verses. This actually is just some paper that you can write on, and then used some, again, some, a lot of, both of these pages are using floral scrapbook paper that I have picked up at my thrift store. More of that same, some paper that you buy at the thrift store, or the scrapbook paper is just so pretty that you can't resist. And of course, I like to have a lot of flowers in my books. So, and again, this is where I tried to cut out where Edith Holden, and I think this was her diary, where she listed or named books that she, flowers that she found along the way, and gave us the scientific name. Mostly it's a scientific name, but some of them, you know, for instance, this is called wild hyacinths. And we know that hyacinths that you get, that you grow in bulbs is a much closer, the flowers are much closer together than the wild ones. Here is where she describes the whole month of May. Here's an example of where you can slide. This is actually a pack that I found of Martha Stewart. They're like little acetate envelopes, and you stick this in it, and I stuck a Bible verse. You can actually take other Bible verses that, you know, out and stick them in if you want to, but you know, that's something. And here's an example of the flowers book, decorating with flowers, that I use the front and the back. And then here it says above, and it talks about a Victorian posy, and it tells the different flowers that are in it. Oh, this paper here actually came from Amy Butler. Amy Butler's book called Blossoms. And that is this book right here. Actually, it's a magazine, and I have cut it up to bits, but it too has beautiful, you know, just lovely pages of flowers. And it's a very vibrant book, but it's called Blossoms. It's by Amy Butler. And I've looked to see if she had published others, and she, you know, to my knowledge, she has not. But the reason I can tell, this is a glossy paper, and the flowers book that I pulled some pictures of flowers out of have a glossy, you know, magazine glossy, and this is more of a matte finish. This is where I did a little bit of, I found a pretty picture in a book or magazine, and just had to put it in here. So I did a little bit of distressing on a clear, you know, one of the plain back, and added that in here. This is more of the flowers book, just such beautiful. And then added a Bible verse to them, more of the same. And this is where I took the Bible verses and put them in. Again, you can transfer this. Here's another Amy Butler. Add a little bit of bling to this one. And this is what this particular button is. I've been doing quite a bit of these yo-yos. And I don't know, I actually found a book on yo-yos. It's called Yo-Yos to Go, Perfectly Portable Projects. And it just has throughout all different pictures of how to put together a yo-yo, and then different ways that you can use yo-yos. So I've been making quite a few of those. I work in a project where we make dresses for little Haitian girls, and on the pocket, of the dresses. We add little yo-yos with an interesting button that goes with the fabric, and all the fabric is donated. And this is another interesting little something that I found at the thrift store, and it was just a whole group of somebody, I don't know who did, if they decided to put if this is a sewing machine embroidered or if it's actually a piece of fabric. But anyway, they had decided this is the way it came. It came all cut up, all in these little round circles, and then they had all of these with them. And I just thought these will be so good in books for little additions. And that's what I did here. This is actually a piece of like kind of loosely crocheted, but it's from a company called Wish. And I'm not sure if you are familiar with Wish, but I have on occasion ordered from them. They're expensive because they add a lot of tax and all of that. But if you have a store in your town that actually will, and it's usually Asian stores that will let you deliver the Wish product to their store, and then you just go pick it up. I guess Wish gives them a kickback for having, so the next order that I have, and it saves you about half in their shipping charges. So here's an example of where I took and this can be just like set on a windowsill or on a nightstand or in your desk, but this is what this is. And I used a piece of this is actually plastic here. It's not acrylic, and you can just pull out here and stick any kind of Bible verse you want in here. And so it's kind of a take and go. It's a little thick, so it adds thickness to the book, but you can take it out and use it, so it's sort of portable. This is a beautiful mauve piece of doily that I found, and I just had to find the right type of fabric to put it, or paper to put it with, and I did that. So there's more on the other side. Here's another example of how you can take this. It was a little kit that you put together, and it has a window attached to it. And what you do, and I put paper clip to hold it, because you do need a paper clip because it will fall out. But you can take, here's another take and go, where you can take the Bible verse with you, and sometimes we just need that little inspiration, and you take that with you and can use it. So this is another collage. I used a little bit of trim from it kind of came with some burlap, and any of these verses can be slid in here if they're the right width and length and so forth. Here's the other side. This is a piece of embroidery that came from a thrift store. There's a whole bin of doilies and pieces of lace fabric and pieces of embroidery that people just threw away. So they put them in the bin, and you go through and you find, and I was able to get about 5 different pieces of embroidery off of this little table runner. It's the table runner itself was highly stained where on the inside, so I couldn't use, well, I guess I could reuse that, but I cut out around the embroidery to get this in here. And I was able to get about 5 or 6 of those. Here's the other side. These are 2 cards that you can use to send to friends with envelope that are nice, inspirational, kind of spiritual. One of them has a Bible verse in it. This is another where you can take and slide. This is another one what is her, Martha Stewart, where you can slide this in and out. It's a little cumbersome, so I put this particular one in it, and you know, just because the colors kind of went with this page. And then more trim, lace. This is a store-bought flower that came by itself for 50 cents at the thrift, or 25 cents at the thrift store. These are more of those flowers out of Flow magazine. And this is a little card that you can use. And I don't know if you all know Amanda Gordon, but she was the one that did, the girl that did the beautiful poem at the inauguration this year. And someone had put together a profile of her with some of her verses in there, and I actually printed out a copy of that and it's really an inspiring her poem that she read. Here's a doily that I attached on both sides. A lantern, I think it's called something lantern, the flower there. This is another card. This is actually a Mary Englebright with the T. Yeah, it's a Mary Englebright. Here's where you can actually color these Bible verses. I found a stack of them at the thrift store. These books are so much fun to put together. I've attached a couple of clusters of little cards, business card size, that you can use to put your own Bible verse on if you like. And I think the other one is here. What a lot of fun. Just enjoy putting together, bringing several different magazines and putting these magazines in into use. They're just there at the thrift store. This is where I took some Aida cloth, because I just happened to have a lot of Aida cloth. And I joined two pieces together, and I added a couple of buttons that you could take off and use. And again, you can transport this card and put other verses from the that are in the book. So it's a lot of fun to put together. It's got a really long, and this was the length that I cut it, and I kind of mistakenly cut it too long. But I thought, well, the first thing anyone that wants this book can do is take and use this ribbon for something else. So, but this is the way it looks, and it will tie right here. And I appreciate your coming along and watching me put together, put together this book, how it's put together, some of the items that I'm able to use, reuse, repurpose, recycle. Thanks for coming along and watching with me. This book will be for sale in my Etsy store. It's called Trust, and it's going to be a part of my Hopeful 2021 series. It's going to either be book 11 or 12. I can't remember how many I've done, but the name is going to be Trust. And again, my Etsy store is Yesterday's Stash, all one word, all lowercase. So thanks again, and we'll talk again soon.